Welcome to another video where we are going to talk about this book right here. And I'm not gonna lie, this book completely changed my life. It's very well loved. I don't know if you can see all my little highlights. It was probably about the 10th book I read on trauma, because every trauma book that I read would come back to Peter Levine and this particular book. So rather than going over a bunch of other books, I thought I would just stick with this one, Waking the Tiger. The most amazing thing about this book was that I discovered it while trying to heal trauma. And the reason why I was trying to heal trauma was because I had chronic fatigue syndrome that just would not budge. So I was one of those people like really deep in the fitness industry. I was running a coaching business, which I loved. I loved everything about it. You know, I really thought that I had like made it in the most amazing possible way. But then, you know, symptoms that had been on and off for like 15 plus years completely took over my life. Like at one point, like I couldn't clean my house. I couldn't cook my food. I had to buy meal prep. Like I was so wiped. And, you know, threw my hands up in the air and I was like, what am I missing? Like, what do I have to do? And then from that day, I ended up down this really spiritual path. So I went through reiki, subconscious reprogramming, breath work, meditation, Joe Dispenza. I went all the way down this kind of spiritual path, law of attraction, manifestation, all those things. And unfortunately, it didn't fix my problem. So it's like with every single breakthrough, I felt like I was finally at a place where I was going to get better. You know, this was the last breakthrough. I'm finally there. And then only to be right back where I started again with exactly the same symptoms. All the more wiser with amazing information, of course. However, I was not healed. And eventually I found my way to medicine work. And in doing that, I met an amazing somatic experiencing therapist who I'd never heard of it before. I'd never really understood what the word somatic meant. I've never even identified as having trauma. It was just completely foreign to me. And to meeting her, I was able to really slowly heal my body from the inside out, which alongside other things, of course, I'm not going to deny the importance of nutrition, of not training myself so hard, of learning to get out of fight or flight. I'm not going to discount the importance of those things because they are absolutely key. But what ultimately changed my life was the somatic experiencing, and specifically learning how to let my body complete survival patterns that had been holding since my childhood. So your nervous system has, you know, multiple operating modes, and generally very simplified described as freeze, fawn, fight, flight. And they're different branches of the nervous system. And essentially when you have trauma, these pathways get interrupted and they get shaped in a maladaptive way, or they get shaped for survival. So if you have trauma growing up, then your nervous system might be one that errs towards surviving and not towards thriving. But who doesn't want to thrive, right? So with the conventional medical treatment around chronic fatigue, they just constantly tell me that I should take antidepressants. There's nothing they could do to help me. I should stop getting blood tests. I'm not going to find the answer. There's nothing they can do to fix it, you know, so that's how I ended up down my own path. And what Peter Levine talks about is actually the mammalian aspect of being a human being. So he talks about how all mammals, when under threat, will go through the same pathway with their nervous system. So first they will sense the danger, then they will choose to fight or flee. And then if that is not available, they will freeze. And once the danger has passed and they sense that it's passed, they will get up and they will shake off all of that charge, because underneath the freeze response is actually all of that nervous system energy, or that adrenaline that your nervous system shot out to help you fight or flee. But let's just say you're a bunny rabbit and you sense a huge cat and your life's in danger, but you're backed into a corner. You know, that's when the freeze response would come in. They kind of play dead. And because they're playing dead, that animal then thinks they are dead. It walks on about its way, and then the rabbit gets up, shakes, moves on about its day. And he was explaining how us humans are exactly like that. So in trauma, we have the same responses. So if there's a danger in our life, and I'm just talking about childhood because that's my experience, but this goes for any traumatic event that you can't process in the moment, you will either fight or flight. If you cannot, you will freeze. And if freezing feels dangerous, there's another layer of adaptation that humans can do called fawning. That's where you make all the wrong things that are happening to you okay. So underneath the fawning is a freeze, underneath the freeze is the fight flight, and underneath that is that survival energy that never got a chance to be released. And so waking the tiger is actually about how to reawaken that instinctive part of the nervous system that knows how to heal. So how do we make space in our life to discharge that frozen energy? So by working with my somatic therapist or even doing it in meditation myself, when I feeling into these sensations in your body, like whether it be a racing heart rate or adrenaline feeling in your legs or even a headache, like pain, any type of sensation that feels uncomfortable, you can kind of feel into that. And then as you feel into that sensation, you try and sink deeper and deeper and deeper. And it helps to have a little bit of a meditation skill. So you do need to be able to be present, which would be the first skill you probably have to learn if you wanted to go down this path. But by learning to understand that your body is actually holding on to all of this survival energy, it also starts to explain why you can't get out of fight or flight, or why you can't get out of an all or nothing mindset, or why you can't stop binge eating, because all of these patterns that we develop are usually layers on top of a dysregulated nervous system. And the reason why the nervous system is dysregulated is because of all of that charge stuck under the freeze, which is causing your body all of this distress internally. And so you're reaching for things, whether it be alcohol or nicotine or junk food, or even escaping reality through fantasy. We find all of these ways to cope with the instability in our nervous system. But if we can simply be present with ourselves and make space and learn how to feel the sensations in our body and learn how to hold space for them to move through us, we actually start to discharge all of that survival energy, which then really slowly, gradually over time, teaches your body that it's actually safe in the world. Because when something happens to you when you're younger, you don't have the capacity generally of escaping the scenario, and especially if it's a parent or someone that you're really close with, you don't feel safe to say, excuse me, you're hurting me, or, your anger is not appropriate. Like as a grown up, you can leave if you have healthy survival responses, but as a child, you can't leave. So yeah, we just layer on all of these behaviors and all of these coping strategies to try and help regulate a nervous system which is dysregulated because it has so much charge stuck in it. By learning to befriend that and kind of let it move through you, you start to get the freedom back. And with that, you actually get some symptom relief, like my gut is better. Most of my allergies have slowly faded away. My mental health is a million times better. And just to add that, I have gotten therapy along the side. So I didn't just do this, but this would be definitely the key piece of healing. So yeah, just all round healing. And that on top of deciding to eat a lot more food this year, which I did gain a few kilos, but I had to eat a bit more food. I've actually been able to heal way more. Now I have energy for the first time in like 12 years to get through a whole day, to be productive all day, not fighting the fatigue. Like I wouldn't say I've got enough energy to go bolt out the gate. I probably wouldn't be able to recover from that, but it's far improved from where I was. And another thing that he talks about is the kind of trapped emotions, so like the fear and the terror. Like for example, he says, if we allow ourselves to experience the death-like sensation of being frozen and at the same time uncouple the fear that accompanies it, we will be able to move through immobility, which is freeze. As the freezing response develops into terror, rage, or a death experience, we respond emotionally, just as we did when the event happened. The way out of immobility is to experience it gradually in relative safety through the felt sense. So you can have this kind of reverse experience of having a sensation of the freeze and then recognizing that underneath it is terror, because terror is what led to the freeze. You can allow the terror to be there. You kind of feel into the edges of it while holding space. And then it moves through the terror into mobility. So that might have you just kind of get up and walk off, or, in kind of immersions or deep somatic therapy sessions, I've like chosen a different action, like, I would hurt him, or I would punch him, or I would run, there's stories in the book of people who, like, someone got cornered by a bear And in her somatic experiencing, in order to release that discharge, apparently she just started like running on the ground and then ended up getting up and just running in real life. So she actually got to complete the response that was never able to be completed, because when she saw the bear, she froze. She didn't run away. And you're not supposed to run away when you see a bear. I learned that in America, so don't do that either. And then like here, it says like how biology becomes pathology, so how it relates to your health. If large areas of our neocortex were destroyed, either surgically or by accident, we could still function. However, one tiny nick in the reptilian brain or any of its associated structures and animal or human behavior patterns are profoundly altered. Extreme imbalance will be reflected in changed patterns of sleep, activity, aggression, eating, and sexuality. So basically these kind of primal aspects of ourselves are forever altered if we are stuck in these survival responses. You know, profound. And other things that he says, like when we suffer from trauma, the association between life energy and negative emotions is so close that we cannot distinguish between them. And hypervigilant people are keyed to a state of intense alertness at all times and may actually develop a slightly furtive, I'm not sure what that means, or fearful, open-eyed appearance due to constant watchfulness. There is a growing tendency to see danger when there is none, and a diminished capacity to experience curiosity, pleasure, and the joy of life. All of this occurs because at the core of our being, we simply do not feel safe. So when I first met my somatic therapist, it was in a retreat setting, and they were just constantly talking about safety, like, well, what makes you feel safe? I can't remember. I was so probably dissociated at that time, but I was like, I don't even understand the question. Why is she asking me this? And then during the sessions, she would say, what level of touch are you comfortable with? And I would just freeze at the question, because I'd never really been, no one had really asked for my consent before for that, especially when I was a child. So that's when I first recognized that safety is actually really important, and building safety in your nervous system also increases capacity to, in the later sense, allow these things to move through you. So yeah, so I'll leave it at that today. That is Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine. An amazing read if you want to understand the nervous system. It's not complicated. Have an open mind, because it's really different to probably any other self-help book that you're going to read, like, Let Them, for example. Like, just let them, no, you don't want to just let them. You actually want to move through the survival state that has you stuck in the first place. So I will see you next time. Bye.